Well, good morning once again. And turn to your wonderful neighbor and thank them for being the light that lights the world. Thank them for being here. Thank them for showing up. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being here. And beloved ones, I know we're having a little challenge with our heat, so those of you who are up in the upper room and it's a little warm, you can join us down here. There's plenty of room. We appreciate that. And if not, we'll just send cool thoughts for you up there. Well, friends, this is the last of our series on source and synchronicities. Because when we connect with the source, we draw more synchronicities, more experiences, more of God's blessings and goodness. And so we've been talking these last 6 weeks about our ability to sync our consciousness or link our consciousness with divine consciousness. It's always there. There's only one presence and one power. There's only one mind, and we're all connected. But sometimes we are asleep to that fact, right? We forget that we are connected to everything. We are connected to everyone here. We're connected to every life form on this planet. We're connected to the cosmos and the stars. We're not a part of it. We're not sitting here and the universe is out there. The universe is here. Everything is connected in a divine matrix of stuff, of life, of goodness. And so we've been working on recognizing how to consciously become aware, how to consciously link ourselves to the source of all being so that we can draw forth our deep desires and our deep intentions and our prayers and our requests and our images and visions and dreams and hopes, all of that. We begin to draw that too because it already is. We uncovered that last week, right? Everything is already involved in God's mind that we, through what evolution, are bringing it forth. Evolution means the exit out of. So we're exiting out of this wonderful soup that is the creative energy of God. And we evolve whatever is involved in God into being. And we're doing it consciously. That we're not victims, life isn't willy-nilly, that we are masters who have the capability of drawing forth from the invisible what is ours to do, to be, to have. Now this series, as I mentioned before in some previous talks, that this series, or the thrust for this series, came out of some of the teachings from the O&O Academy out of India. And of course, it comes out of my own take on some of the basic universal principles, concepts, desires, teachings, aspects of humanity that we all want, that apply to everyone. We spoke about health and healing, and health and healing on many levels, on the physical level, the mental and emotional and spirit, even the spiritual level, that there's a healing and a wholeness. And that, of course, when we bring ourselves to connect with this source of all life, of all being, that we are then able to demonstrate a sense of wholeness and wellness of being. And that everybody wants to be whole and well. To wake up feeling a sense of well-being. It is well with my soul. Right? Everybody wants that. Now, how we go about it is varied. And there are maybe greater paths than others. But at least that longing for health and wholeness is a holy thing. It's a God thing. It's part of our DNA. To want to feel connected to life, and want to have, the goodness of life within our being so that we feel well. That's a divine thing, a holy thing. We talked about love and experiencing connection and peace and harmony in our relationships, all kinds of relationships, and that how the best way to actually receive love was to do what? Give it. to express it. That love, again, is one of those innate qualities of being. It's one of the fruit of the Spirit that's a part of who we are. And our task is to express it, because the law is as within, so without. And if we want love and we're seeking more love, then that means we must give it. We must be it. And we're that loving energy, and we bring that love in our awareness to all things. We express it. That when we vibrate love as an energy, that love is a force that goes forth, and it does a lot of stuff. It can heal. It can harmonize. There's a phrase in the scriptures that says, love draws its own to itself. When we put it out there, it comes back, because it's an energy. Whatever we put out comes back. So that love that we're seeking, we put it out and it comes back. We also talked about in this series the notion of power and of syncing our consciousness to and with the creative essence and power of God to manifest our heart's desire. We did that last week, that God is the creative substance behind all things, and that when we link ourselves to that, we are empowered and we are able to create our heart's desires. So with all of that going on that we worked on, I thought, well, what is there left to experience? Well, how about some wealth and abundance? Would that be a good thing to link to? Some wealth and abundance. Now, if we think about those concepts of abundance, certainly having good health is a part of abundance, is it not? Yes. And certainly having loving relationships and connections is a part of abundance, is it not? Yes, you want to feel that. And certainly touching the creative power and the essence of creativity and expression surely amounts to having a certain amount of abundance, right? Yes, all of that. It leads to a richness of life and the richness of the quality of being. It enriches our lives. Our lives are enriched by our relationships, by our good health, and by our ability to create and to share and to give. All of that makes for a rich life. But let's be honest. Would we not also love to have an abundance of wealth? Right? Don't pretend you are so spiritual that you don't want some wealth up in your life. Wealth in the form of money substance, right? Because let's not, pretend, okay, I don't know, I'm too spiritual, I don't want any, I'm not concentrating on money. My traditional colleagues might say, there they go, those new thought people always thinking about the gospel of prosperity. Yes, prosperity is a God thing. It is a good thing. It doesn't say that you have to be poor to be spiritual. It's okay. And if we're honest about it, we all desire to have more wealth. The substance, the symbol of money substance. Now, we've all heard the saying that money is the root of all evil. Have we not heard that? Yes, yes, yes. Well, that's a half quote, or what I like to call it's a misquote. It's a half quote because it doesn't quote the whole scripture. It doesn't say that money is the root of all evil. It says what? The love of money is the root of all evil. See, money in and of itself is simply a outer symbol. It's a symbol of an inner state of being, an inner consciousness. And it's not good nor bad. Like electricity is not good or bad, but what you do with it determines its meaning. But electricity in and of itself is not good. You could use it to light up a room. You can use it to electrocute somebody. Doesn't matter. You can't blame electricity. Electricity is. So money is not good or bad. It's simply a means of exchange. It is simply an expression, a symbol of something else behind it. A symbol of abundance, right? Now the confusion comes when you begin to love the thing itself as opposed to the source of the thing. That's when the confusion comes in. Because trying to generate money can be tiresome. Trying to generate lots of money can be all-consuming, right? It can, if one does not have the right consciousness and the right spirit, it can lead one to avarice and greed and extreme materiality, some of which we might be witnessing today. Sometimes I look and I say, the level of greed and avarice is outstanding to me. You know, it's like the rich want to get what? Richer. But to what end and for what purpose? Is it just to have it? See, just because of the love of money? Or is it for a high purpose? Is it to do some greater good? Webster says that avarice is excessive or insatiable desire for wealth or gain. Excessive or insatiable desire for wealth or gain. Now, insatiable desire, friends, is not a good thing. It's okay for us to have desire for things because we are human, right? That's fine. But this is talking about what? Insatiable desire, which means you can never feel a sense of satisfaction. You can never feel the sense of being fulfilled. And if you never have the experience of being satisfied or being fulfilled, then gluttony takes over. Can you imagine if your stomach never told your brain that your body is full? And you just keep eating and eating and eating and eating and eating, right? And that's what you eat and eat. You have no sense of fulfillment. It then becomes what? Destructive. So money is not bad. It is how we approach it and our desire for the love of it. And if it is just to have money itself for no design or divine purpose, then we run into challenges. If we can never be satisfied, if never having enough, then we're always struggling to get more. We got to get more, and I got to get more. And it doesn't mean more by any means. As a matter of fact, you got some, I'm going to take yours because I need more. You understand the process that Spirit is trying to tell us about? It is the love, that insatiable desire. But when we are able to connect to the source or the supply of money, if you will, if you make that connection, then grace is allowed to flow easily and freely and fully to you. When you connect to the source of all being, the source of substance, and the source of money, money begins to flow to you easily to do a high work, to do a high purpose. So listen to, remember we studied this wonderful little book by John Randolph Price. Many of you studied it. And Spirit was guiding me to read some things from it yesterday. And it's called The Abundance Book. How many of you participated in our agape groups? Yeah. Okay, so the rest of you, we have some books. You can see me later, but this is a powerful little book. And he starts off with saying here, money, I'm on page 21, money is an effect. It's an effect. When you concentrate on the effect, you are forgetting the cause. And when you forget the cause, the effect begins to diminish. Cause and effect. If you never touch the cause, eventually the effect will what? Diminish. He says, when you focus your attention on getting money, you are actually shutting off your supply. If you begin this very moment to cease believing that money is your substance, your supply, your support, your security, or your safety, you must begin to cease believing that. Money is not those things, but God is. When you understand and realize this truth, the supply flows uninterrupted into perfect and abundant manifestation. You must look to God alone as the source and take your mind completely off the outer effect. If you look to your job, your employer, your spouse, or your investments as the source of your supply, you are cutting off the real source. In fact, if you look to any human person, place, or condition for your supply, you are shutting down the flow. If you give power to any mortal as even being the channel for your supply, you are limiting your good. So it's not your job, it's not your, inheritance, it's not all these things. It is what? God is the source. He says you must think of money and any other material desire or possession as simply an outer symbol of the inner supply. And the only reality of that symbol is the substance which underlies the outward manifestation. So he's teaching basic metaphysics. It's not the thing when something has appeared, it's the idea in back of the thing that is real, correct? Because we can destroy the what? Thing. But if you have the idea of the thing, what can you do? Create it again. So it's not the thing that holds the value, but the idea in back of the thing. It's not the physical substance of money that has the power. It is the idea in back of it. You can burn money. It's paper. Special paper. But it's paper. And you can burn it. If this isn't valuable, it's the what? Idea in back that produces that is more valuable. So we as truth students understand that. And it says money is the symbol of an idea in divine mind. It's the idea of abundance, the idea of fulfillment that we want to lay hold of. The idea is an all-sufficiency of supply to meet every need with a divine surplus in your individual life. Now I'm going to read that again. Because we're talking about money is a symbol simply for abundance and fullness, right? The idea is the all-sufficiency of supply to meet every need. That is, the idea of abundance is that sufficiency of supply to meet every need. And then he says, with a divine surplus in your individual life. Because abundance is not what? Limited. It's infinite. And as much as you can lay hold of it, that's as much as you can have. Don't go to God with a little thimble. Get a big bucket, a barrel, or whatever your consciousness can contain. Right? So there's always, not only is it the all-sufficiency of supply to meet every need with a divine surplus in your individual life. As the divine idea comes into manifestation, it appears as the symbol money. But the money is not the supply. Rather, it is your consciousness of God as your abundance that constitutes your supply. You get that? When you try to collect, acquire, and possess the symbol, focusing on the symbol and not the supply within, the outlet for the manifestation closes. Do you want more money, more prosperity in your life? Then shift from a consciousness of effects, materiality, to a consciousness of cause, spirituality. And then it goes on to say, the inner presence, the you, with a capital U of you, is truly the money maker. Your thinking, reasoning mind is not. Your only source is the God presence within you. If your mind is on the source, the cause, the supply flows freely. If your mind is on the effect, you block the flow. I love this because it's so clear and it is so succinct. And I love that sentence that says, it is your consciousness of God as your abundance that constitutes your supply. When you understand that the more you're able to connect your consciousness to God consciousness, to the source of all things, not only will your particular needs be met, but the source itself becomes the fulfillment of every need. And then more good comes and more supply flows into your life. The more you connect, the more to God as source, God is good, then the more the good comes into your life and affairs. And so, if we're honest, we all not only want to have the wonderful spiritual qualities of being, of health and love and relationship and harmony. All that is good. Those are qualities of being. We want that. But we also want the manifestation of wealth. And not just for ourselves, but to do a good work. But we must keep in mind that the wealth that we are desiring, or the money substance that we are desiring, still comes from the source. It is still having its proper connection to the divine, to God. It is not simply the love of money. It's money to use for a high purpose, right? A spiritual consciousness of the fullness of God. The scripture says that the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. Everything is full. Money is simply an effect. God is the cause. Money is, it's just the outpicturing. God is your source. Who's the source? God is your source. And in this book, he gives 4 basic, what he calls truth and spiritual laws. And and I'm going to read these 4. He says the first truth, and each of these truths has a spiritual law that is connected to it. And the first one says, the first truth and the law, your outer world of form and experience is a reflection of your inner world of thoughts and feelings. Your outer world of form and experiences is a reflection of your inner world of thought and feelings. As above, he says, so below. As within, so without. That is the law. So we already know that as true students, right? But what we want to connect to is to be sure that we understand that it is our, thoughts and feelings that are producing the experiences, even this global thing that we are seeing, this transformation, this ugliness, this hatred, all that stuff. It's all coming from within what? The unconscious soul of who we are as a people on the planet. But that's okay, because it's coming to be what? Healed. It's coming to get up and out, and we can see it and let it be, and heal it, and release it. But we've got to experience it. So it's the thoughts and feelings. So the question is, what thoughts and what feelings do you have about money in and of itself? About money, about wealth? Do you fear money? A lot of people have fear surrounded by money, that maybe I won't have what? Enough of it. Or maybe if I do get some, I'm going to do what? Lose it. And so, I better hoard it. I better try to hold on to it because it may go away. We believe in a sense of scarcity, that there's not enoughness in the universe. That's what's producing all this greed. There's not enough. I got to get it, I got to get it, I got to get it. If we truly understood that we live in an inexhaustible universe and that God cannot be exhausted, good cannot be exhausted, abundance cannot be exhausted, if we understood that, there would be none of this hoarding and struggling and taking from one another. So we've got to look at, do we hold thoughts of lack and insufficiency? Or do we fear even having too much money? Maybe if I'm too rich, they'll think that, I'm shallow. Or maybe they think that I'm greedy or I'm unsavory on some kind of level. Maybe too much money. I remember when I was afraid, I told this years and years and years ago, how when I first got my first Lexus, I thought, I didn't even want to drive it to the church because I thought, that doesn't look good. And then I had to say, why not? I want to ride in comfort. What's wrong with that? But, I was riding in a Nissan. I went from a Nissan to a Lexus because why not? But I was afraid, how it would look. Because there's that old image that ministers just want to get all your money and whatever. I ain't interested in your money. I want God to give me what is mine by divine right. But it was an old mindset, right? An old consciousness. And some people are out there moving in that field, and that's okay. But I remember I had a fear about that, or fear of, not having too much, or fear of losing. So we begin to hoard, and we begin to, move into just wait a minute. We can't do that because it's going to cost too much. Wait a minute. We live in an opulent universe by a source that's inexhaustible. So, examine your consciousness around money. Look at your fears. Look at everything. Don't be afraid. Get in there and see what you're holding about it. All right? The second law, he says, the greater your awareness of the presence of God within you, the more that presence fills your consciousness. That is the law. The greater your awareness of the presence of God within you, the more that presence fills your consciousness. That is the law. So, again, I'm encouraging us to really kind of practice this. I love the soul sync meditation because it brings us actively into the presence where we're not just sitting there thinking about God, but we are making that connection. We want to connect to God, to the divine within us, not think about it. You find the difference? We want to be it. We want to experience it. I want to feel the presence of God. I want to be one with it. I want to feel that oneness. I want to feel the spaciousness. I want to feel my connection and to know that God is. Be still and what? Know that I am God. The knowing is not through an intellectual knowing. The knowing is through the experience. And we have to start experiencing God in our lives, in and through our affairs, as as a power, as an expression that we're tapping, and as we tap it, we give it out. We give it out through our words. I bless you. I send you love and light. Heal thyself. Walk. Whatever it is, there's enough. We speak it. We be it. All of a sudden, there's a vibration that's coming from us as the expression of God. We're not sitting around, oh God, I wish I could think about God. Yeah, God, could you give me this? Could you do that? Nah, it's not about that. It's about being it. So the greater your awareness of the presence of God within you, the more that presence fills your consciousness. That is the law. So when we do that, the more you presence God in your awareness, the more you presence God in your awareness, the greater your consciousness of God grows. See, God is. But the more you presence God in your awareness, the greater the presence of God and your consciousness of God grows. God is. The fullness of God is already here, but it is our consciousness of God that must grow. Right? And when that happens, we begin to grow. So does the power, our power. So does the creative expression and manifestation, and energy within us begins to grow all around us. We begin to be a walking, talking field of creative energy of God. So people are like, ooh, there's something about you. Yes. Right? I'm vibing. I don't even have to speak. I let my being do the talking. And my being will reach out and just touch you. That's powerful stuff, right? So this is what we want to do and be about. And then the third law says this: the deeper your understanding of spirit as the source, substance, and activity of your supply, the more permanently that truth will be etched in your consciousness. That is the law. The deeper your understanding of spirit as source, as the substance is source, substance, and activity. It's the God, the stuff of God, and the movement of God. And when that becomes to be etched, when you really understand that, not as a concept any longer, but you understand it and you own it as an experience, then all of a sudden, the more permanently that truth will be etched in your consciousness. See, that's when we're cooking with gas then. When it's permanently etched in your consciousness, then you are beginning to live a totally different life on a totally different level and vibration when that truth is etched grooved in your consciousness. See, that grooving, right? You got that, we're wired for God, but when you get the grooves, that means you see God everywhere. You talk God, you speak God. And when I say God, I mean the good. You see good everywhere. You call it up. You name it. And when you can see good, even in the midst of a pile of garbage, then all of a sudden that good jumps out. You see, because you're calling it forth, you're seeing it. It's etched in your being. And so when we do that, when the substance, abundance, and prosperity and wealth begins to be etched in your mind and in your consciousness as you and your consciousness, then you start living in the overflow. You're not living in want. You are now living in the overflow because you will see and feel good everywhere. Everywhere. You'll name it all good, and it will be what? Good. When there's some mess that you're talking about, all that mess, when you name the mess good and you see good in the mess, boy, that good jumps out. The mess has no power. Only good exists within the mess. So this is when we're starting to live in the overflow, and the blessings of God begin to start drawing themselves to you like a magnet. And then what? Your cup will runneth over. My cup runneth over. And see, living in the overflow is that when the cup runs over, surely goodness, shall mercy shall follow me. My cup is running over. It's so much, I can't contain it all. I'm living in the overflow, living in the abundance, because the universe is full. Abundance is the nature, fullness. They may talk about black holes, but there's no absence of anything good in God. No absence. If there was an absence of something, we'd be in trouble, because God would not be omnipresent, and God would not be omnipotent, and God would not be omniscient. There's no absence of God or good in anything. There's the abundance of God. So we want to live in the knowingness of that fullness of God, not the absence of what you don't have. Take your mind off of the thing and put it on the source, which is God. And God is full. The universe is full. Yes. And when we, get that, when that becomes etched in your mind, we become then open channels. Remember, we're all just a channel. Because God is what? The source. We're just a channel. Your job, your people, we're all just channels, not source. But when we become open channels through which the blessings of God can flow, then our consciousness must begin to expand to receive all the presence and the flow and the goodness of God. We become the containers. You are the container, the vessel for the good that you desire, right? But and if you want more good, expand your container. You want more good, expand your consciousness of the good, of God. Fill it. And the more you begin to expand, it fills. Because there's also a phrase that says nature abhors a vacuum. You create it, and God's going to fill it. You create that openness in your heart and mind, and God's going to fill it. Because it has to. Because there's no absence, there's not a vacuum in the present. So the more you can expand your consciousness, the more your consciousness gets filled with the presence and goodness of God. Do you understand and get what we're talking about? Right? So don't be sitting there asking God to give you more things. God is saying, honey, expand your consciousness. I'm here, the good is here. You can't contain it. You want more of it, open up and receive it. Because that's the secret, right? The more you fill. So we become the containers, and the presence begins to overflow its goodness in and through and as us. I want to live in the overflow. Let me hear you say, I am a container for the overflow of good. I am a magnet for infinite abundance. I live in the overflow of God's inexhaustible supply. I am blessed beyond measure. Doesn't that feel good to say that? Yes. Because we remember there's no limit on your expansiveness of consciousness. No limit. no limit on God. So the amount of good you contain or manifest is up to you. It's up to you and your level of consciousness, which leads us to the final truth and law that he says. The fourth one, he says, it is your spiritual consciousness, your knowledge of the presence of God within you as total and complete fulfillment that interprets itself in every form or experience in your world. That is the law. It is your spiritual consciousness, your knowledge, the knowingness of the presence of God within you as total and complete fulfillment. There's no lack in God. And the presence of God exists where? Within you. As what? As you. Which means we have no lack, no limitation. The only thing, if we're experiencing lack and limitation, it is the lack and limitation of what? Our consciousness. Has nothing to do with God. He gives some biblical quotes. I want to end reading some of these biblical quotes because I just love to hear some of them. And this is from 3 John, verse 1 through. Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayst prosper. Malachi 3:10. Prove me now herewithin, says the Lord of hosts, if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing that there shall not be room enough to receive it. That's overflow consciousness. And from Proverbs 10, verse 22, the blessing of the Lord, it maketh rich, and he addeth no sorrow with it. Don't be afraid to be abundantly blessed, to live in the overflow. Psalms 122, they shall prosper that love thee. Peace be within thy walls, and prosperity within thy palaces. I want some prosperity in my palaces. And this is a palace. This is the house of God. We are prospered here. And from 2 Corinthians verse 9, God is able to make all grace abound towards you, that ye, always having all sufficiency in all things, may abound to every good work. We're here to do a good work, and we need money sometimes to do the work. So we are abounding in that, all sufficiency, so we can do a good work. Deuteronomy 8, verse 18, thou shalt remember the Lord thy God, for it is he that giveth thee power to get wealth. It comes from God. And Deuteronomy 28, verse 12, the Lord shall open unto thee his good treasure, the heaven, to give the rain unto thy land in its season, and to bless all the work of thy hand. And thou shalt lend unto many nations, and thou shalt not borrow. When you have the ability to start lending and giving, you're living in the overflow. Psalms 35, verse 27, let the Lord be magnified, which has pleasure in the prosperity of his servant. Jesus said it's the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. To give you the kingdom. Seek that first, and everything else is added unto. He didn't say a little bit. He didn't qualify the everything else. All good things are what? Added unto you. And then last, from Matthew 11, verse 24, all things, whatsoever ye pray and ask for, believe that you have received them, and ye shall have them. Beloved ones, we are meant to be blessed and prospered. And we are meant to really shine our light, to shine our liberty, to shine and to do a good work in the world. Because the more we are blessed, the more we are called to be a blessing. You understand? It's not just for ourselves, but the more you are blessed, the more you are called to be a blessing. And those who truly understand the power of wealth give it away. They don't hoard it in, they give it away. So it's my prayer that we continue this journey of connecting to source and synchronicities. in a few months, we're going to have a weekend called Source and Synchronicities put on by the O&O Academy in November. There's some flyers out in the back. I think Cheryl put them in the back container or stand where the literature is. But pick one up and see if you want to go a little deeper, because I think we've got to keep diving deep. This morning I was thinking to myself, I have to stop living on the surface of life. Got to go deep. This is a time for us to go deep, right? So hopefully I'll see you there in November. But in the meantime, let's all live in the overflow. Live in the overflow. Be blessed in the blessings. Namaste.